Hello, my friends. This is Deepak Chopra, and we are continuing our conversations with luminaries and influencers. And today it's my great privilege to be speaking to Raja, and last name is Rajamannar, correct?
It is Rajamannar.
Rajamannar.
You got it.
So today my very special guest is Raja. I know him only as Raja since has become a personal friend. But Raja is the Chief Marketing Officer at Mastercard. And he's been very vocal recently in many conferences that I go to about disruptive technologies, especially now. Blockchain and crypto and the metaverse. Many people are confused about these, even the definitions of these words. And of course, recently you've had the big debacle with FTX in the crypto world, which is making everybody very nervous. So I'm speaking to Raja because I think there's no other person better qualified in the marketing world as the Chief Marketing Officer of Mastercard to educate us a little bit because even I and my CEO Punal Chamachaya, we are in the Metaverse and Web3 big time, and we are like everyone else pondering what the risks are and what the benefits are. And when disruptive technologies come, there's always turbulence and chaos. And ultimately, we have to adapt to them and embrace them. Otherwise, we become extinct. That's a Darwinian principle. So what we do with technology is up to us, diabolical or divine. But let's first speak to Raja. Raja, thank you for joining me today.
No, absolutely an honor to be there on this event, and thank you very much for having me.
So Raja, first of all, once again, thank you. There's no one I want to speak to more about this topic than you, because you've been kind of a pioneer in this whole area. So when I came to the United States in 1970, I had never seen a TV set in my life. And, I saw a TV set, I was shocked. Then I saw it in color. I was even more shocked. A few years later, there was something called fax machines. And then people told me, there's going to be internet around them. I didn't know what that meant either. But, there it was, internet. And then we saw Web 1.0, which was basically emails and the internet. And then soon we saw something more interesting. Somebody told me you're going to have video fax. It never came because we had links now. We could send each other videos by email or text, post on Instagram, YouTube, whatever, just by a link. And so suddenly, Web 1.0 became Web 2.0, but still basically run through an economic platform that was didn't belong to the owners of the content, whatever it was, whether it's songs or movies. Now we have Web 3.0, and it's also going in the direction of metaverse, augmented reality, immersive experiences where we can actually be transported ourselves as avatars into that immersive experience. I can see a lot of medical applications, by the way, of the metaverse and virtual reality and augmented reality, including treating things like eating disorders, phobias, inflammation, chronic disease. We're already mapping out actually the neural correlates of facial expressions, 43 facial muscles that express 150 emotions, and correlating that with tone of voice and heart rate variability and breathing patterns, algorithms for looking at endocrine and immune function. So all you have to do is take a video of someone saying, "Hi, I'm Deepak, good morning." and look at the facial expressions, the eye movements, tone of voice, heart rate variability, and probably know everything in biometrics about that person, including their biological age. But that's a whole nother topic. We will explore it together maybe with your ideas and support. But for our listeners, with that very long introduction, can you tell us, A, what is Web 3.0? B, what is blockchain? C, what is the metaverse? And what is the future of crypto? I mean, these are questions on everybody's mind right now. And then I was reading some of the material about you and things like touch card and all this, totally foreign to me right now. So it's yours now.
Okay, so firstly, I think each one of the topics that you touched upon is obviously an ocean in itself. And individual books have been written on each one of these topics, including my own book called Quantum Marketing, which went on to become a Wall Street Journal bestseller last year, and it's now published in 11 languages around the world. So the way I try to do is to simplify everything, try to demystify as much as possible so I can get my head around it. So when you look at Web 3.0, I look at it as a combination of enabling technologies, such as blockchains, such as social interactive platforms, such as immersive platforms, including virtual reality and augmented reality, coming together to give consumers an immersive, highly interactive kind of experience where they drive the content, they own the content, and everything that they can do in Web 2.0, but multiple dimensions added on top of it. So let's break down and look at each one of this. If you look at blockchain, blockchain is nothing but what accountants used to talk about like a ledger. In the olden days, any company, whether it is small or big, used to have a ledger. So of all the transactions of the money in, money out, and what is the overall income statement looking like and all that stuff. Imagine that instead of one person doing it, that ledger is distributed across multiple people in a community, which means firstly, it's all open and transparent. And therefore, there is a level of trust because nobody can fudge the data, because the way the technology is written is that each time a transaction is entered, it gets codified as a block. And that block is called immutable, means it cannot be changed. Once a block is written, it is permanent. The next transaction appears as the next block. If somebody tries to fudge, that fudging will come as a subsequent block in full view of everybody in the community. In a very simplistic way, this is what blockchain is. The technology which is working for this blockchain is highly decentralized, and it is highly algorithmic, and it's very intense in terms of the level of complexity. But the simplistic outcome, if you see, it might look simplistic, but what happens behind is incredibly sophisticated and complex. So this blockchain has got phenomenal applications, not just for the Web3/Metaverse/cryptocurrencies, but also for things like validating if an item is genuine or not genuine. Understanding the journey of a product from farm all the way to the retail store. So for example, if you look at an item in the retail store and suddenly they find that there is some kind of a salmonella or whatever the problem is there, they have to withdraw that. Today, it takes days, if not weeks, for a retail chain stores to actually find out where all the items are lying and then be able to pull it out. But with this blockchain technology, there is something called provenance. So which is, it tracks the journey from the source all the way to the retail shelf. And they know it exactly in a few minutes where it is. And then the withdrawal of such things become very easy. Or to establish if there is a Louis Vuitton bag or whatever, you see so many knockoffs. How do you know which is original and which is not? So the provenance can actually ensure. So there are some very practical examples that a common man or a woman can understand. So this is the blockchain part of it. And this is the enabling technology that powers Web3, a part of which is cryptocurrencies. So that brings me to cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency is again something which is of in multiple flavors. A cryptocurrency can be free floating or it can be pegged. Free floating means today I can create a coin called Raja coin, or you can create a Deepak coin. And depending on what people feel about it, they buy it. And depending on how much the demand is and how the supply is, the value gets determined. So the price is completely free floating based on demand and supply. And there is no guarantee that it'll have any backing or any intrinsic value. It's purely sentimental. If you look at Bitcoin, that is a classical free floating currency. So one day it can be $65,000, another day it can be $15,000. And that kind of a whiplashing all over the map can result in such volatility where people can make millions or they can lose their shirt. It can happen either way. Then there is another one which is called pegged currency, or it is backed by something which is to a fiat currency, which is a government issued currency. So there is one currency which is connected to, say, US dollar. In an ideal situation or in a correct situation, for every dollar that they mint, or for every unit of the currency that they mint, they need to hold the currency in dollar terms as a backing. If that doesn't happen, then you'll have collapses, which also have happened in the past. In some cases, the value is backed either by gold reserves, or it can be anything that has got intrinsic value in it. So this is basically how the cryptocurrency goes. The original concept of cryptocurrency was essentially where people said, I need complete anonymity, and I don't want to be accountable to anyone else, including the governments. I don't want people to monitor. I should be able to do things with a sense of complete freedom. But unfortunately, I was fascinated when you said things can be diabolical or they can be divine. And that's exactly true here. There are diabolical applications for anonymity. It's a drug trading. It's human trafficking, arms trafficking, all kinds of negative things can happen, like the Silk Roads of the past. Those kind of things can happen using cryptocurrencies if they are totally anonymous. And on the other hand, if you have got oppressive governments and people are really worried about it, then they can protect themselves against this. Or if there are countries where the volatility of their currency is extremely high, they can convert it into a cryptocurrency that is fiat currency backed or fiat asset backed, and then subsequently protect the value that is, that they have got, preserve value. So this is on the cryptocurrencies at a very high level.
Can I just interrupt there? In this whole FTX debacle, it seemed like it was a Ponzi scheme similar to, say, Bernie Madoff, but in the crypto world. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, it was fraud. There is no question about it. It's totally fraudulent. And unfortunately, people did not pay adequate due diligence to it to see what exactly is happening behind. One of the key things is, because cryptocurrencies are so difficult to understand, it's beyond the comprehension of most of the normal, common people. And then when they see that there is somebody of some reputation who has put money, they say, if it is good for so-and-so, it is good for me too. So you start following like sheep, and before you know, there is a whole momentum that's built around it, and it becomes a multi-billion empire that is completely built on a house of cards, so to speak. And you remove the right card, the whole thing collapses. And that's exactly what happened in this case.
Okay, so go ahead. So we understood crypto, we understood blockchain, owner economy instead of rental economy, correct?
Exactly. So in the owner economy, today, for example, if I am a creator of a song or some content of an art or whatever else it is there, today I'm dependent on a lot of intermediaries, like whether it is a record label company or it is brokers or agents, call it whatever it is. There are a whole series of middlemen who are there. And they actually tend to get the most of revenues on the work that I, as a creator, have created. That's number one. Number two, in many cases, if somebody is listening to my song, I have no way to tell, really. And therefore, I don't get compensated for it. There are no accounting systems. There is nothing at all. So what Web3 does is, it really is a brilliant solution where creators can put their content directly into the ecosystem. And when somebody is consuming, they can decide to charge. They can say, I want to charge 1 cent per play, or I'll charge $100 per play, whatever it is they feel is their intrinsic value. And again, it's sort of the balance comes through between the demand and supply. And if I create a painting, somebody is willing to buy. Like, for example, I minted an NFT of the book cover just to experience what the whole thing is. and some good soul bought it for a princely sum of $2. I said, okay, that's great. I got $2, right? But that $2 is mine. Now, the way I built the conditions into that NFT is when that individual sold it to somebody else $11, I got 10% of that back. So I got $1.10. This is exactly what happens. So NFT is a very completely different kind of an approach to how you can monetize your creative output in a highly effective kind of a fashion. So that's one part of it where creative folks can really monetize whatever they are creating, their content that they are creating. And the last thing I would say is when you talk of Metaverse is a completely immersive environment. People try to wrongly associate it with those huge headsets that you wear. It doesn't have to be a headset driven. It can be a simple glasses. It can just be a mobile phone as it is, and you can have a complete Metaverse experience in this. So Metaverse is something which is, the way I look at it is, it can be a combination of virtual reality, augmented reality. There is a lot of artificial intelligence deployed into it, and there is interactivity, and there is social connectivity involved in it. There could be gamification. And your point is so spot on. In fact, some of the killer apps for Metaverse are actually in the health and well-being space. And in fact, I was actually talking to my son. It's impossible to convince him to do exercise. For example, I said, let's both play Lightsaber, one of the games that is there, where you're actually, you're doing various actions of your body. You're ducking, you're standing, you're jumping when something is coming at you. At the end of 20 minutes, both of us were exhausted and we were sweating. So we got the exercise without realizing. So that gamification is a phenomenal application, particularly in the context of healthcare. And you are so right, whether it is for mental health issues or physical health issues or whatever it is, this is something which is an area of high interest and high promise. And in my capacity and role at Mastercard, also as the president of our healthcare division, this is something which we are very closely looking at and trying to see how we can actually enable consumers in terms of their health and well-being.
So before we go further, I have some more questions and I want to share my experiences too. But tell me, as the Chief Marketing Officer of Mastercard, and just to remind our audience, I'm speaking to Rajamannar, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of Mastercard. You're obviously using a lot of these disruptive technologies at Mastercard. Can we have some examples?
Oh, yes. So we have, for example, a big sponsorship of ours, which is Grammy Awards. So Grammy Awards, in the real physical world, what we do is we invite some of our customers and our card members, and they will come to that event in Los Angeles or wherever it is, and typically it's in Los Angeles. So they come there, they have a red carpet experience, they stand in front of a step and repeat poster, they take their picture, then they go, they get the best seats at the concert, and then after the concert is over, they go backstage and they shake hands with our ambassadors and then take selfies with them and then come out feeling thrilled. So these are genuinely once-in-a-lifetime opportunities for them. Truly memorable, what we call as truly priceless. This is what we do every year. So this year we said, let's try to take Grammy Awards into the Metaverse. So we use the platform called Roblox, which is a gaming engine. And in Roblox, we created virtual Grammy Awards. So it's a virtualization of the real Grammy Awards that we had. So one of our card members or customers will create an avatar of himself or herself. Then they buy various accessories to deck up that avatar the way they would like to show and express themselves. Then they have a virtual red carpet walk. They stand in front of the step and repeat and take a selfie in front of the step and repeat. And then they go into the concert stadium and into the stadium and watch the concerts and all that from different angles that they can choose, sometimes from the left, sometimes from the center, left or whatever, and sometimes from on the stage itself. After the concerts are over, they go backstage. They meet with the ambassadors' avatars. So we have got our brand ambassadors who have created their avatars. They go shake hands with them, they take selfies. And all these selfies are issued by us to the customers as NFTs. Instead of doing actual photographs, we give them the NFTs. No, we said, let's see how this idea will resonate. Now, what we were pretty pleasantly surprised is, though we had to invest a little bit of incremental dollars for this entire thing, we got a massive amount of participation. So we could take Grammy Awards. So typically, we take about, say, 400 people to this whole thing. We could actually get now around 4,000 people on the Metaverse. And they went through the whole experience. And so people could join live, whether from India or Brazil or China or Germany, without even having got to travel. So suddenly what happens is you bring the whole world into a small space together and give a rich experience. It is definitely not the same as being physically there yourself, but it's the next best thing. And the satisfaction scores of the consumers were extremely high, just a few percentage points behind those people who are there present physically. And that really gave us a lot of momentum. So we started now doing it across Australian Open tennis that we do. We have done it at Rugby Women's World Cup that's happening, that's recently happened in New Zealand, and so on. So we are now taking it to all our main sponsorship events and doing this kind of an experience on the one hand. The other thing we are also doing, interestingly, is because gaming has become such a big deal, we created something called Mastercard Gamer Exchange. So what you do is, many times, many of our customers and consumers, they have got rewards points or miles from different airline programs or from banks or merchants or whatever. So they accumulate these points, but they are not big enough or significant enough to be able to redeem for one of those big gifts or whatever. So we said, if you have lesser numbers, so if you require, for example, 25,000 miles to get a ticket from point A to point B, and you only have 10,000, are you going to wait for 2-3 years more, or do you want instant gratification? People want it today. So we said, okay, instead of doing some magazine subscriptions and things like that, which many of the people do, we said, you can exchange these for in-game currencies across 4,000 different games. And what we find is there's a tremendous positive response. We just launched it in Asia. And this is something which is consumers are very excited about. And part of it is we first want to go into the overall gaming, ecosystem. But then we want to get into specific areas, connecting it back to health and well-being. So therefore, you're trying to sort of connect the rewards, and you earn more rewards when you're redeeming them for health and wellness kind of programs and so on. So this is one kind of a thing that we are doing in terms of this entire space. And the last thing I would give is, today, anyone who has tried to purchase an NFT, firstly, most people don't understand what is NFT. And if they do understand what an NFT is, the experience is simply horrible. So you have to go, you first open an account with MetaMask or something of a wallet, which requires a whole bunch of authentication. Then you open with a Binance or some such company, and then and link it to your bank account. And then you transfer money into this, convert it into cryptocurrency, then use the cryptocurrency to go to OpenSea. And in OpenSea, try to look at what item you want to buy, and then link your MetaMask account and this account to Binance account to the OpenSea. And then it's no normal human being will be able to navigate it, really speaking. So we wanted to simplify the whole process, and we're actually in the process of creating such a platform together with a company called Coinbase. So Coinbase and us, we have joined hands to simplify the whole experience so people can easily buy and sell their NFTs. So if you're a creator, typically creators are right-brained. And this NFT process is completely left-brained, if there is any such a dichotomy, and you're the expert in it. I'm just using the common parlance on this whole thing. So we wanted to simplify the whole process, and that's exactly what we have embarked on. And we are also undertaking some services where we can help these creators in the gig economy to get these kind of things put in the marketplaces, and we are creating opportunities for them. So these are some of the kind of things that we are doing in the space.
Wonderful. So let me share with you, first of all, that is amazingly insightful, reminding our viewers that I'm speaking to Rajamannar, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Mastercard. We're talking about blockchain, crypto, immersive experiences, Metaverse, and the various applications of these technologies, and how Mastercard is pioneering some of these disruptive technologies very effectively. So let me share with you some of our experience. About 2 years ago, right in the beginning. We did an NFT with Amelia Clarke from Game of Thrones. She had had a brain injury. And so we created NFTs around her dress and what she wore at the Emmys or Oscars or, one of those events. And then we raised money for brain injury research. And we were able to raise significant amounts in just 24 hours. That was our first drop. And our company is called Seva.love because it's all about service and cause-driven marketing, a course that I used to teach in the past at Columbia Business School. So that was our first foray. Then we did something for children in Nepal by an Iranian artist who wanted to create schools there. And we were able to do the same thing. Then we rescued 3 bears from Mongolia as climate refugees just to bring attention to the whole climate change crisis. All these have been very successful in that we were able to create NFTs that were selling for several $100,000. Then recently we launched something called Chopraverse, and this is how it happened. I had designed an eco-friendly home, carbon neutral, but also with passive biometrics and real-time bioregulation based on an experience that I'd had previously with Fitbit. I had designed for them, for Fitbit, live intervention when they were stressed on just their iPhone. And it was so successful, we had 1.3 billion hits, media hits, which had never been experienced. So I said, why don't we create a home where you don't have to wear a wearable, where the home itself is your wearables. And then if you're stressed, you can have real-time intervention. So I designed this home with the architect who knew a lot about biometrics and sustainability, and worked with Delos, a company that creates passive treatments and well-being homes. Then I decided that I didn't want to build this home in Florida because various reasons, political or whatever. So we created a Metaverse version of it. And right now we're partnering with Eva Longoria, Maria Bravo, and a company called Utopia. We are selling 108 virtual homes, mostly in the Middle East. And if somebody wants to then real-time create the home in physical space, they also have the rights. If they have the NFT, they can do that as well. And so that's a project we just launched. And I was in Abu Dhabi recently and Dubai. And one evening we sold like 15 homes. And then somebody from the Abu Dhabi government said, why don't we buy all 108? So that is also emerging. But then also for the women's movement in Afghanistan, etc., all driven around causes. We raise money for Afghani designers who designed these clothes, who had lost their jobs. And we partnered with a company called Earth Fund for a crypto that we created, and they're like, what do you call it? They fundraise for causes through crypto. So we've been very successful in getting their support, and now we are looking at, as you said, creating our own currency and getting into the space of virtual immersive experiences for well-being without any interface. So what happened is in Los Angeles, the same people who designed the Van Gogh experience, we created an experience in higher consciousness transcendence derived from the Yoga Vashishta, where you just walk into the museum, no headphones, nothing, no iPhone. You're transported into a different loka, different reality. And I just came back from Dubai, the Museum of the Future, where we are going to take this experience in the Museum of the Future as an immersive experience without any computer interface. And finally, on Roadblocks, created a meditation experience with the mayor of Miami, Suarez, whom I'm sure you know, and where he and his avatar and I and my avatar, we teach children how to meditate and do yoga. And if they want brownie points in a game, then they have to influence their heart rate variability, etc., or breathe in a certain way, which has to be measurable to get to the next phase. So as somebody who's leading this space, I want to ask you, are we on the right track with all these forays?
I think firstly, I must say that I'm super duper impressed. And what you're doing is extraordinary. First and foremost, at the heart of everything that you're doing, there is a big purpose. And I think that's what is driving everything else. And, in terms of things like, whether it is a Chopraverse or it is the things that you're creating with Eva Longoria or Amelia and getting all this, I think it's extraordinary. And particularly if you are coming to the immersive experiences without having got to have any interface, I think that's probably very much at the cutting edge, I would say. And I think, the areas that one can always think about is how can this be scaled so as many people as possible can get involved in, particularly for these kind of physical spaces. And is there something like a Chopraverse in the physical, like in a Chopraverse in a box, that can be done, whether it is Museum of Future in Dubai or anywhere in Cincinnati. If I want to do something, how easily and economically it can get going. That could be pretty fascinating. And coincidentally, when you talk of Mayor Suarez, he and we have done a panel discussion recently, and we have actually partnered with them, with the city of Miami, to create about 5,600 pieces of art by the local artists, converted them into NFTs, and then auctioning them. The proceeds will go to the city of Miami for the well-being of their communities and things like that. And he's a very progressive mayor, definitely. And I believe also he's the head of all the Mayors Association or something of that sort. So it's been fantastic. I think that those kind of partnerships are phenomenal. And the other thing I would also say is that when you're talking in terms of part gamification, like the avatars of you and the mayor, guiding people through their, breathing, heart rate variability and through breathing and all that, I think it's fantastic. And I think what I would love to do, actually, from a Mastercard's perspective, on the one hand, plus as somebody who really deeply believes in these, philosophies and the Eastern philosophies, the yoga, the meditation, and all these good things, would love to figure out what could be the ways we could actually join hands and do stuff with a view to take it to as many people in an affordable fashion as possible. That will be truly incredibly powerful. It'll be a privilege for us to be associated in some form or fashion.
Raja, I'm very grateful even for you suggesting that idea, and I'll definitely follow through with it. Again, reminding our viewers, I'm speaking to Rajamannar, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of Mastercard, about the new technologies, crypto, blockchain, Metaverse, augmented reality. One more thing that I wanted to mention, because I recently came back from the Middle East also. 2 years ago, we created an emotional AI chatbot for people who are going through depression, particularly teens. So as you know, right now, every 40 seconds, somebody is dying from suicide in the world. In America, it's now the second most common cause of death by suicide, is the second most common cause of death by teens. So we created an emotional chatbot named after a recording artist in Europe who was the sister of an actress who works with us in Bollywood, Hollywood, and now in France and England as well. Her sister had died from suicide. So we called this emotional chatbot Pee-wee, which was her nickname, the recording artist, but now we also use it as an acronym, personalized interaction with intent. To make a long story short, 6,000 suicidal ideations were prevented. 20 million conversations happened simultaneously and are still happening.
Amazing.
And the data is so impressive. And we also found that the children particularly teens, are more comfortable talking to a machine than to a human being because they don't feel judged. Then we created a crypto to pay for counselors at the back end for those who were really in serious risk of suicide. And now we are doing the same thing with veterans who are suffering from PTSD. So this is a very big project that I went and I took to the Minister of AI in the Emirates in Dubai. And I said, can we do it in Urdu? Can we do it in Arabic? Can we do it in Farsi? Because the same problem exists everywhere else in the world. And he was very encouraging. And I just want to mention this to you as a possible immersive augmented reality. And also, by the way, on the Roblox game, we had the children design the games, with Suarez. So it wasn't me or Suarez who designed the games. It came from the children. And of course, then it's embraced by the children. So those are some of the new initiatives as well that I'd like to talk to you at some time, because basically, I'm a strong believer in what in our wisdom tradition we call karma yoga. And karma yoga is just love in action. And these technologies are giving us a chance to practice karma yoga and freedom from suffering, not only for ourselves, but for the world. So I'm very grateful for you to consider some of these applications.
No, it'll be really a privilege, because as I said, what you're doing is completely purpose-driven for the well-being and betterment of the society and for our planet. And in our own small ways, we have been trying to do at Mastercard a few things. Like recently, we had some Ukrainian fashion designers create fashion line, and we gave them a platform, both in a physical world here in New York, as well as in different international locations, to raise funds for the cause of the Ukrainians. We partnered with Conservation International for protecting the animals that are close to extinction. So typically in a credit card, you have got an expiration date. So what we did is, for example, we show the Sumatran tiger on the card, the picture of the Sumatran card, and we say the expiration date is 12/26, which means that species is actually going to be sort of getting extinct by 2026. It's so close, and it sort of shocks you into realizing how disastrous and precarious the situation is. So we're trying to do that, and we are trying to create some beautiful wildlife photography that will be converted to NFTs, and the proceeds will go to Conservation International for restoring the habitats of these endangered species. Or we are partnering with Stand Up to Cancer to help raise funds, and I believe so far we have raised close to $60 million for them to deploy behind cancer research. And they have actually got 8 drugs so far FDA approved, all the way from molecule discovery to FDA approval. So these are profoundly meaningful. And likewise, we partner with the World Food Program to feed poor children in their schools, mostly in Africa, because we feel that education is the way people can break out of the poverty trap that they are stuck in. And so we feed them at their school, and the parents are then happy to send these children to school because they have one less mouth to feed, because the kid gets fed well in the school. And that has resulted in a 14% increase amongst the attendance amongst girls who are attending the school pre and post. So we're doing those kind of things, and anything that, and all the areas that you're talking about, I cannot say this is something which is not relevant to us. Would love to explore. And I think 2 things that come to my mind as a marketer at heart. One is in terms of how do these programs that you are so brilliantly creating get, we build awareness around this around the world. So we have got, for example, about 2.2 billion consumers around the world who have got a Mastercard. And not every one of them might be the right target audience, but if there are people, while fully respecting their privacy, are there ways where they are made aware of these kind of things being available? On the one hand, so raising awareness. The second thing, being from a financial background and from a commercial organization, I would always think in terms of how do we scale these programs so it will benefit as many as possible. Part of it, if you are doing things on Metaverse and doing digitally, it obviously gives you scale, and the numbers, like when you said 20 million conversations happening for this emotional bot. That's amazing. Absolutely. That is scale right there itself. But for everything else that you're doing, I think I would love to explore, either at a personal level or on behalf of Mastercard. This is an area that I'm deeply passionate about and would love to figure out how things can be made to happen.
Before I let you go, what is that touch card?
See, this is an interesting story. When I was growing up, my maternal grandmother used to live with us, and she was blind. She became blind over a period of time. And so me and my sister used to help her navigate around the home from room to room, or even where she should sit and then have her meal, show her the plate and the glass and all that stuff. Now, fast forward, I went to South by Southwest in Austin, and I was coming out after giving a keynote speech there. And one of the guys from my finance organization had come up to me and said, Raja, how come we don't have a card for blind people? I said, I should have thought about it. And even before this guy actually told me, because I saw how dependent my grandmother was on me and my sister to be able to get by. There is the loss of independence, unfortunately. So we started studying how people actually look at or do the cards. So today, if you look at most of the cards that are coming out, they don't have any embossing. So there is no tactile feeling for the card. So the card, the blind person is not able to distinguish the front from the back, left to the right, or top to the bottom. So, and they don't know which card is what. So they have to ask somebody saying that, hey, what is this card? And not everybody they're asking is of good character. Some of them, they actually exploit them because they're so vulnerable. So we said we need to bring about independence and give a level of comfort and confidence for blind people to use a card. So we thought the solution is very simple. We should just have Braille, because every blind person is supposed to know Braille. But when we actually started looking at that, less than 10% of people who are blind know how to read Braille. Less than 10%. So Braille is not the solution. So then we said we had to come up with an alternate solution. And we came up with a simple system of providing a small notch just below the center on the right-hand side of the card. So when the blind person feels the card, and if they see that the notch is slightly below the center on the right side, the orientation of the card is right. The shape of this notch tells whether it is a debit card or a credit card or a prepaid card. And if there is a notch, that is a Mastercard. So you're able to identify and orient the card just by the touch. So we called it the touch card. And in doing so, we worked with the Royal National Institute for the Blind in the UK and Visions out here in the US. And we created the product. Now, you think it would be very simple. How difficult could it be just to put a small notch? But surprise, surprise, it's a terrible process. So what happens is when you put this kind of a card into an ATM machine, the ATM machine either rejects the card because it's not a perfect rectangle, or it actually gets stuck inside the ATM machine. So we had to work with NCR, which is the largest manufacturing company of ATMs, of ATM machines, and we had to get this modified. Then also, if you look at any card for contactless payment, there is an antenna which goes around the corners of the card. Now, if you put the notch, the antenna gets broken. So we had to work with the card manufacturer, IDEMIA, to come up with a new design for the antenna that the efficacy doesn't go, yet we are able to put the notch on. It took a 2-year development. So what seems to be a simplistic solution in the front, again, required a lot of sophisticated work behind the scenes. And this is the card we launched. The first card, coincidentally, got recently launched in the United Arab Emirates. The second one is getting launched in Belgium. And 28 countries are just getting ready to launch in the next 1 quarter. So I feel very grateful for this.
Very wonderful, Raja. Another example of there's no problem that human creativity can't solve, especially when there's shared vision and everybody complements their strengths and everybody bonds around something that is worthwhile for society. It's been very wonderful speaking to you. And we will continue this conversation, see what we can do together. Very grateful to you. My very special guest has been Rajamannar, Chief Marketing Officer of Mastercard.
Thank you so much, sir. Really, really appreciate it. And
thank you. Don't go.